Is everybody in? Is everybody in? The show is about to begin.
Welcome to the podcast, concerts that made us, interviews and stories, tales from the bus. We love taking you back to when it all went down, the greatest live shows and the cheering crowd sound. It's concerts that made us, concertsthatmadeus.com.
Hi, this is Ryan Policky from A Shoreline Dream, and you are watching The Concerts That Made Us.
Ryan Policky, you're very welcome to Concerts That Made Us.
Great to see you. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for being here. Now, A Shoreline Dream recently released your 8th album, Whitelined. Can you take us a bit deeper into it?
So this was an album, over the last 4 years, we've been so in our own spaces here in Denver that I wanted to expand a little bit and get involved with influences, people that we've worked with and we know of and we love, and got a hold of Mark Gardner of Ride to help us finally make this album come to be. And over the last year and a half, been working with Mark and been working with my partner Eric on making this album that is definitely one of my favorites of our whole bunch of albums that we've made over the years.
Right, right. I like it. I like it. Can you tell us a bit more about the collaboration between yourself, Mark Gardner, and Eric?
So Eric, I've been working with since '97. He's been in a few bands with me, but we've been doing A Shoreline Dream since 2006. So he's like a close collaborator. We've always worked on A Shoreline Dream together. We've done on touring. We've done everything you could think of. Um, and we've reached out and worked with some people such as Ulrich Schnaus in the past. And then we did a show with Chapter House, and we were just trying to get ourselves more involved in that community of the shoegazer realm of things. Um, Ride was coming to town. Our publicist was working with Mark at the time. And I was like, okay, how can we get in to go to talk to Mark and see what could possibly happen if there's any possibility at all of making a collaborative effort. And she hooked it up. And on my birthday, they came to town and right after the show, went right up there and talked to Mark and was just like, hey, we'd love to work with you. What can we do? And he's just like, I don't know. What are you wanting to do? I was like, well, can we write some songs together? Would you be into singing and being on the songs? And he's like, oh yeah, sure. Let's do it. So, right after that, probably a month after, is just like, let's get this going. I had a bunch of songs that me and Eric had put together over the year and pitched him to Mark to see what he thought of them, and he picked 3 tracks that he loved and he wanted to help make full into a collaborative effort, and that's what they turned into. So,
Oh man.
yeah.
When you first had the concept for the album, what was the vision and how close is the finished product, would you say?
The vision of the album for me is always to expand upon our sound and to give it something that makes sense with what's going on in the present day. Whitelined is like this. There's right now it feels like there's like this illusion of things coming back to being normal. There's an illusion to how people are interacting with each other. It hasn't really fully formed back into how it used to be before the pandemic. And the album itself is kind of like that struggle of trying to find that connection again with people and not getting too involved with the illusion of it looking like things are back the way they used to be. So even when I pitched Mark about the songs that we were doing, that was the concept that we were going for, was this: how do we get back into reality? How do we get past the illusion layer? And that's why the album art kind of has like this illusion kind of vibe to it, because I feel like it's hard to see through it. It's hard to see through that illusion. So the songs are all based on that, and how people are reacting, how people are talking to each other, how people are dealing with situations in their lives, and how to look forward to something more positive happening in the future.
Yeah, yeah, I get you. I get you. Now, it's your first album that you're actually releasing on vinyl as well. Was this
Right.
something you were always kind of working towards?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if we were working towards it. It's like you always want to have that goal of getting your music on every medium that you can.
Yeah.
Especially in the digital era, it's like you want to get these things like on the cassette tapes and vinyl and on whatever you can get it on. But vinyl's so expensive that you really have to feel like, okay, it's really worth making this and putting it on vinyl and selling it, because it's going to be so hard to sell anything to anybody at this point in time. But it's a huge goal for sure. It's like, I've always wanted to have my music on vinyl. So it was like, that would be absolutely amazing. And to a lot of bands, it's like, well, we've done that like every album, so what's the big deal? But to me, finally, we've done it. And now we have them in hand, and like, here it is right here. So it's real deal. So we're excited about it. So, it's just kind of like, okay, there's another cool thing that we've done.
Yeah, yeah. Now that you've done it, will you continue trying to do it in future?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really, I mean, as far as selling physical product, it's definitely a lot harder to sell anything besides vinyl right now. People don't buy compact discs really. They do, but it's just not like how it used to be. It's like hard to justify making that. So I would always lean towards vinyl first because people want that collectible item that is a bigger item that's cool to have, to have the art that big. And yeah, so in the future I think that's going to be the go-to.
Cool, cool. Now, you formed a Shoreline Dream, as you mentioned, back in 2006. Personally, for you, what has the journey been like so far?
Oh, it's been crazy. I mean, when we first started, we were doing it as like we did it is me and my other friend who was the drummer at the time, Gabriel, and we wanted to just do like something that was a step up from what we were doing previously, which was kind of like a massive attack trip hop kind of vibe thing in this band called Drop the Fear. But we wanted to expand more into like the huge wall of sound, guitars, and live sound. And after we experimented with it, we got all this attention right away from our first EP. And, people were talking about it, and we got on all these cool opportunities, back in the day, getting in the MySpace homepage and having like these big entertainment entities like Filter Magazine and Paste Magazine and all these bigger magazines latching onto it and being like, oh, this is gonna be the next big thing. We got to push these guys, and we were like, whoa, this is crazy. So, for a long time, we were in this haze of what are we doing? What is this thing? Is like, why are we going in the places we're going? But it was amazing doing it because you want to do that. And then connecting with people like Ulrich Schnauz. So we found out while we were on a tour that Ulrich Schnauz is a huge fan of us. So I reached out to him and was like, let's make some music together. And he's like, sure, yeah, let's do it. And just the connections that we've made and the experiences that we've had. I mean, there's so many cool things that happened over the years. Now we're like, it's like 2006. It's almost 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So long ago now. It's like a classic band. So it's hard to really like fully put it in perspective, but I can say that a lot of the goals that I had when I was a little kid of wanting to do certain things in the music industry really did happen. And you know, that's amazing. To make it a full-time career, I mean, that would be awesome, but that's very difficult in the music world. We're getting there, but it's just so hard. Shoegazer is not like some huge pop sound that everybody goes and buys. So, but we take it all as we did some amazing things and we're still doing them.
Brilliant. What more could you ask for, huh?
Yeah,
And
right?
you release your music through your own label, Late Night Weekend Records. How does that compare to actually being on a different label or somebody else's label? Is it total freedom or does it kind of just create more work?
Um, well, first of all, everybody always says late night weekend because they want to think weekend is weeknight, late night weeknight. Everybody does it. It's so weird. I can tell anybody it's late night weeknight, and they're like, "Oh yeah, it's late night weekend." But yeah, it was an interesting thing because I knew because in my early days before I was doing bands, I was a music interviewer and I was doing reviews for magazines and talking to bands, and I knew I never had heard any band happy with their label. I'd
Yeah.
never talked to anybody who thought that their label was awesome or they were helping them or anything. So when we started doing A Shoreline Dream, we started with our idea that we're going to do it as our own label. We did have a couple bigger labels get in touch and we rejected them. And I think the main reason why is because actually I know because I made that call was if we're not selling a lot of albums on our own, why would you take a huge loan from a label
Hmm.
that you're going to have to pay back?
Yeah.
Because every band always has to pay that back through what's coming in. Um, I just was afraid that we would sign to one of these big labels and it wouldn't be as big as they thought it would be, and we'd be shelved. So as much as it is definitely way difficult to do it on your own, you have to set up your marketing, you got to set up your publicity, you got to set up distribution, you got to figure it all out on your own and try to gain all these channels that you can release your music through. It's well worth it, because if you're not selling a lot, I wouldn't take a loan from anybody, because it's just not a good idea. I've just seen too many horror stories, like bands that are 20 years into their career and they're still paying back their initial video that they made that cost $3 million, and they're, who knows if they're ever going to make that much money to be able to even pay that back for the one video they made back in '93.
Yeah. Oh man, it'd be a nightmare to have that hanging over you, though. You know, like you would feel literally like you're never going to get to the end of it, no matter what you create, what you do. You know?
Yeah, because I mean, we knew record labels only pay you about 12 to 13% of what you're making if you're lucky. If you got a good deal with a label, I mean, that's a lot of money you got to make. It's just like Spotify nowadays. I mean, you have to have so many plays to make any money at all. It seems like it's big, but it's not, because you're not making any money.
Mm.
And even working with Mark, I mean, they're like one of the biggest bands in that genre of music. And he's like, I don't do this for a living. And you're like, oh, great. Well, what am I doing? I'm like definitely a few tiers down from you, and you still can't make enough money to keep it going. It's just crazy. I don't know. It's something that you just do it. You don't do it because you think that a record label's going to make you some superstar. Because what's the odds? I mean, you might as well win a lottery. I mean, yeah, we all know that, right? It's just like you got to make music because you like it and you feel passionate about the sound that you're creating, and you really think that people are going to connect with you on it. And it doesn't matter how many, you're just going to, you will connect with people.
Yeah. Yeah. Has to
Yeah.
be a calling, I suppose. Yeah.
Yeah.
And, you know, the podcast is called Concerts That Made Us. So I need to ask you some concert related questions, if you don't mind.
Oh, for
I'll
sure.
start you off easy. As a concert goer, what concerts would you say have made you?
Oh, man. Concerts that made me would be the ones like from early days, like seeing Typo Negative at with 50 people at some venue here in town. Um, and I would say Sigur Rós, that they had a show here that was just absolutely phenomenal. It just like made the whole crowd like cry. I'd never seen that before. Uh, there's definitely like those kinds of concerts. Like Massive Attack came one year, and they were only played two shows in the States, and they were playing with Elizabeth Fraser, and the Cocteau Twins are one of my favorites too. And that one, like, I was like, oh man, I want to do that. The visuals, the vibe, the connection with the people, like actually hitting the sound of your album live, like that just blew me away. So it's those kind of concerts. I would say, even some of the smaller ones, there's like smaller venues here in town that I see some amazing shows, like Dead Meadow. They played here in front of hardly anybody, and it was just amazing. It was just like
Yeah.
these guys just blew everybody away, and they weren't doing it because of any other reason. It's just that's just what they can do. So yeah, there's so many. I've been to too many shows. I've seen Tori Amos so many times back in the day, and everyone at Tori Amos shows would blow me away because
Yeah.
she could just hit it every time. It always sounded perfect, and she always like knew what to say and to get people all riled up. And it's just those connections. You're just like, man, I want to do that.
Oh man. Oh man. What was the last concert you were at, actually? Just out of interest.
It was Ride. Because they
Right.
came back here a couple months ago, and we
Ah,
we went to the show to celebrate with Mark, because we had like copies of the vinyl, and we wanted to go and see them because they were playing their new album live, and we hadn't seen that yet, and that was amazing. Their new album of Ride live is so good. Like they hit it so perfectly, and They have a really good following in Denver, Colorado. So yeah, that was a
Nice,
good show.
nice. Yeah, yeah. Now, when you think back to growing up, what was the first moment that you kind of really noticed music or music touched you for the first time?
There's a couple, I can't remember which one's first, but I would say that Bon Jovi, Living
Right.
on a Prayer, the Living on a Prayer song. I heard it on the radio and I was like, oh my God, I got to hear that again. Like, I want to hear that song again. And that was like in the day where you didn't know who it was that you heard, and you don't know if it's ever going to come on the radio again. So you'll sit in front of the radio all day, like waiting for that song to come back on. And that song, it's crazy. That song totally like was stuck in my head all the time as a little kid, and the video came out on MTV and I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is amazing." And I'm not like a huge Bon Jovi fan, but that one song really made me want to do what those guys were doing. That video, seeing those guys on the stage and running around with this huge crowd and like is like amazing. And what's crazy about it in hindsight of the whole thing is one of the last jobs I just worked on for my professional career was a Bon Jovi docu series.
Oh man.
So I was working on a docu series for Hulu for
Yeah.
Bon Jovi,
Oh man. Going full
which is
circle.
crazy. I know. I was like, this is so weird. And he's like come so far, and to see how far that Bon Jovi had come over the years. And, I didn't really follow Bon Jovi that much after that because I started getting into like heavy, scary music like Iron Maiden and whatever at the time. But wow, weird. The connections, the things that happen in life are pretty bizarre sometimes.
They really are. They really are.
Yeah.
Now, I know A Shoreline Dream is more of a studio project, but would you ever consider doing live shows with it?
Oh, for sure. I mean, we used to play live shows all the time. Um, we'd go on tours. We'd play the East Coast of the United States, play up in New York because there was a lot of fans there, and we'd play on the West Coast, and we played South by Southwest a bunch, and I played some shows just with Ulrich as a secondary guitarist. Um, and those times were amazing. So yes, I'd want to really bad. Over the last like 5 or 6 years, it's become this like studio thing because it's hard to keep people.
Hmm.
You know, we're getting older. We're not like 20-year-olds, so we can't just like ditch our responsibilities and just play music and not make any money doing it. So,
Yeah.
but I want to, and I get requests a lot from our fans saying, "Hey, come and play Texas. Come up to Seattle again." And I'm like, "Ah, I want to." So if I can form musicians that are able to do that, of course, that's what I want to do. One of our best shows was with Chapter House and Ulrich Schnaus out in San Francisco for Chapter House's final show that they ever did.
Oh man.
And that just blew me away. And it's just like, I just want to keep that up, that momentum up of the live experience, because the live experience is really what you do it for.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, when you're doing an album, like I'm doing this album and I'm like, okay, I'm getting reactions and people are excited, but you just don't have the same connection. You just can't get it. You don't know really if anybody likes you at all. You got to prove it. You got to prove it on the stage. So yeah, I want to get back to that. So hopefully within the next year or so, we'll form it. Because somebody just asked me the other day to come and play a show, and I'm like, ah, man, I'm saying no again. I got to get some people together.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. You have to make it happen. And, besides that gig that you said was the best show, is there any other gigs that come close that in the past that, they couldn't have gone any better?
Oh God, uh, there was a couple shows at South by Southwest. There was this one where it was like 110 degrees outside, and there was really nobody in this venue, and we started playing, and then it just got packed, and you could see everybody's coming in like, oh, that sounds good, whatever's going on in there. And when you magnetize people to the show, and people come in and they just have to see what that was that everybody's like reacting to, it just like makes you so much better. And we had the best show ever. It was like just a smaller bar, but man, was it a good show. It was so good. We played with other bands that we definitely love, like Film School, and that was a really good show. The Chapter House show, of course, was really good. We went on tour with this band called In a Way, and that was a really good tour. Um, so many. It's really hard to kind of like pinpoint them. I think some of my favorites too were with Ulrich because it was fun playing with Ulrich Schnauz. When we went on tour, we went on tour with him like down to the south and then came back up to Denver. And each one of those shows were definitely memorable.
Right, right. If we take that question and flip it around, maybe back to the very early days, is there a gig that say everything went wrong and how did you overcome it?
Oh
Or have
my
you forgot
gosh.
those now?
There was like a portion of a tour that we went on that we brought our equipment, but my amp went sour and
Oh,
we still had to keep playing these shows.
oh,
And
lovely.
one of the shows at the end was playing on KEXP. So we had to figure out how to get that to work at KXP show. So we played a couple of the shows with the amp and we literally scared everybody out of the place because it was like screaming. The my amp was like screaming and it sounded terrible. It was the worst sound ever. And I'm like, oh my God, we're in San Francisco and like my amp is screaming at everybody. And we just like emptied the venue because of it. And
Oh, man.
that was one of the worst. That was definitely one of the worst experiences. I think the worst experience shows are the ones where the equipment goes wrong. Something happens with your pedals. Like I've had a show where it's like I couldn't get my pedal board to work forever. It was like a half hour of trying to get something fixed. You're like, God, I need somebody to come and fix this right now. We just wasted our whole show. And then another one I would say is we were doing a record showcase in Hollywood at the Roxy, and we only had half an hour to impress all these huge bigwigs, try to get them to like want to invest in A Shoreline Dream. And the sound guy was just like, you're not using your effects. I'm going to control everything. You can't do your vocals this way. You can't use this mic. You're going to get up there and you better get the hell off the stage right after a half hour or I'm going to kick you the hell out of here. And it's just like, we're so stressed out about even just doing the show. And now we have to figure out how to do it without the effects that we're normally using. I'm like, are you seriously telling me I can't use my effects? What? I'm like, do you understand this music? No, you don't. But we had to do it and it was terrible.
Oh, man.
Then you're like, oh my God, we just did that in front of all these like record labels.
Mm,
Great.
yeah. Thanks, Mr. Sound Guy, huh?
Yeah, thanks, sound guy. But once again, it's because of like your equipment, It's always the equipment. If you can just like I always go into a show hoping that everything's gonna work good.
After nearly 20 years in the band, making music, what's left that you want to achieve? I'm sure your approach to it has changed over the years.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing is just to have that song or that album that really like resonates like huge. Of course. I mean, who doesn't want that? I mean, we've hit so many different goals, from playing with some of our biggest influences to sharing the stage with them, to writing music with them, to connecting with fans that we never knew existed. I think a lot of the goals have been met. It's just like having that huge thing, that people really are like, wow. And it just skyrockets you. So I'm always searching for that. But at the same time, I just want to write even better and make better productions, that better sounding songs and songs that have more meaning and more value to what I want, not really what everybody wants. Just hoping that maybe that thing will become something larger that you can actually say, okay, I can pay off some of my debt finally.
Yeah, yeah, it's a good one. And before we dive into the last couple of questions, then future plans that are set in stone with A Shoreline Dream. Anything else you'd like to share with us?
Well, the big thing is trying to get these this vinyl sold. So there's only 200 copies of the vinyl left. So the big deal is trying to get that sold and forming a few new members and creating another album. I'm already in the works of that.
Right.
so, so the big thing is if I can get some members that can actually dedicate the time to not only doing the album but also doing the shows, that's the next step that we're searching for. Me and Eric.
Right.
Yeah,
Fingers crossed it happens anyway. Be great.
there's billions of people out there. There's got to be a way to do it. So
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. Right, we'll dive into the last couple. So these are a couple of random fun ones, but I'm intrigued to see your answers. First off, besides music, what are you currently obsessed with?
What am I concerned? Well, I'm obsessed with video games constantly. Video games and pinball. I've worked in the pinball industry. I worked on a Halloween pinball machine.
Oh
So
man.
I build haunted houses. This is a weird part of it. I build haunted houses that have pinball tournaments in them.
Right.
I've done that for the last decade. So I always try to integrate like this immersive environment with fun gaming kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I did that with because I'm a horror freak. I love horror more than anything. So like uh making my own horror event has always been like a big thing, and I do that all the time. I was just asked to do it next month, of course, because we're almost in that season again.
Yeah.
Uh, and so I'm obsessed with that. I'm obsessed with making movies and making like visual content. That's what we have 3 videos on this song on this album. One that's going to be coming out this next month. That would be another Shoreline Dream thing coming up. So there's a new video coming out, and it's like, uh, it's definitely influenced by Stalker, the movie Stalker,
Okay.
um, and that kind of vibe. Very, very sci-fi, very, very heady, very like dreamy. I love making movies. I love pinball and video games. I'm always video gaming. That's another one of my side jobs as I work for Bungie, the
Right.
video game company. So I do stuff for them, and
Oh man.
so
It just sounds like in every aspect of your life, you're just living the dream. You're doing what appeals to you and what you want to do.
trying to do what I want to do and not letting money be the primary focus of it all. You know,
Yeah,
because that's the thing. It's like we're all geared towards trying to do what is going to make us live longest, which
true.
is having a secure bank account that we can pay for our stuff. A lot of these things, are were dreams and goals, and a lot of them didn't make money. But I'm still trying. You just keep trying, and so that's what I've been doing. I'm just like, I want to make haunted houses. Done it. I want to make scary movies. I do it, and I make music, and music becomes such a huge force of my life. But I mean, all these things they all kind of relate. It's all just making art and making fun stuff.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
all intertwined. The
yeah.
uh, the next one's a bit of an odd one. If you had to spend 24 hours locked in a room with any musician from history, who would it be?
Oh man, ugh, that's a tricky one. Uh, I would definitely be. Man, that is so hard to say. I think it would be like Tori Amos
Good one.
because I have such adoration for her and her talent and her abilities as a musician. Being able to play 2 pianos at the same time
Yeah,
and making weird music, weird that still connects with huge amounts of people is just such a huge inspiration to me that I think even though I could go through all history, Tori Amos would be the one.
I like it. I like it. Perfect answer. The final question. So, what is your go-to album? An album you constantly revisit?
Oh, my go-to album. I would say right now, Zeno and Oaklander has an album, and I always forget the name of the album because I always just play it all the time. So let me see. Let me see what the name of the album is, so I'm not stupid. Video.
Right. Right. Good one. Good one.
I don't I just constantly listen to that. That or Typo Negative. Typo Negative. October Rust are such. Those are huge influences right now. So at this current state in my life, it's either dark doom metal or like gothy electronic.
I like it. I like it. What more could you want, huh?
Yes.
Ryan, it's been an absolute blast now. I've really enjoyed this one. Thanks a
This has
million.
been amazing. Thank you so much for having me on here. I can't wait to see it in the world of reality.
I used to feel wanted, we used to feel strong. A proud man who worked the days, dreamed that we'd get on. Images all around us, we were needed all along. Now there's nobody, everybody's gone. Now who's in charge here? The system listens till it's all gone wrong, until it's all gone wrong. Do you still feel like dancing? Everybody's moved on. Now everybody's moved on. Now everybody's moved on. Now keep it together, don't fall apart. It's never been easy. Now keep it together, don't fall apart. You're not the only one. Now keep it together, don't fall apart. Let it go. Now keep it together, don't fall apart. 'Cause everything was said. I used to feel something, whatever may come. I thought I got somewhere. Now where do we belong? The ache could be so different if we could ever get along. Our dreams get so beaten. This party has moved on. Now who's in charge here? The system listens until it's all gone wrong. Until it's all gone wrong. Do you still feel like dancing? Everybody's moved on. Everybody's moved on. Everybody's moved on. Now keep it together, don't fall apart. Now keep it together, don't fall apart. Now keep it together, don't fall apart.
Hey guys, I really hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please rate and review us on iTunes and Spotify. And if you're interested in signing up to Band Builder Academy, use the link in the show notes below and enter the code CONCERTS and you'll receive 10% off. So, until next time, keep rocking.
Hey, what are you guys still doing here? The show's over. It's over. You can go home. Go on. We'll see you next time. We'll be here. Bye.